On the day of his funeral, she clutches his suicide note. $50 billion a year. Sex, not love. It was love I was craving. Is there any way I can stop you? Is sex on the cards? Pantyhose? Love, not sex. Love, not sex. They named the people, city by city and town by town. Sex, not love. Erotic. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories podcast, the sex series. Hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. Just quickly before we get to the story, I get this. I've started to receive this email from. I never signed up to it. Right, it's one of these things I don't know how I've been signed up to it. Anyway, it's called Chartable, and it sort of gives you like lots of podcast data. It gives you lots of like different statistics and information. Anyway, you have to do a whole long sign up if you really want all the details of it. I don't really want that. But they do send you an email weekly that just sort of lets you know where you're being listened to and what's happening. So it's been really funny because it's brought up countries that I never knew I had any kind of listeners in. So I'm going to say shout out to Iceland. Hello, Iceland. Shout out South Africa. Hiya. How you doing over there? And shout out to Panama. All of these countries, I'm in their iTunes charts. Now, that's amazing to me. Didn't even know that these countries were listening. So, hello. I wish I knew how to say hello in all of those languages. I don't. I will learn and I will find a way to say it. Okay, this is the last in the sex series. This is a story that I've been wanting to tell for ages. For so bloody long. Now, the timing of it's going to seem odd because, and I swear somebody's hacking into my fucking computer and looking at my stuff. I've had this story on the back burner for ages, and then all of a sudden, Amazon decide they're going to release a bloody 4-part documentary on the same thing. But you know what? Skip the Amazon documentary. Just listen to my story. It's a story you will have heard of. You will know, or at least you'll know the incident that happened. But then I realised everyone knows the incident. Everyone knows the millions of headlines around the world. And there's so much publicity. But I didn't really know the story behind it. Or the aftermath. So, it's a well-known story. Are you ready? Okay. Let's go. In 1988, at a Marine Corps officers' ball on the outskirts of Washington, two strangers meet for the first time. a male and a female. Now, she will say, I looked across the room, I saw him, and I just thought he was so handsome. Blue eyes, a man in uniform, a Marine fighting for his country. I was swept off my feet. He was the American dream. Now, she says this because the woman in question, she wasn't an American citizen yet. She was in the USA on a student visa, but she had been born in Ecuador and grew up in Venezuela. But she'd always dreamed of living in America. The man in the situation, he says this: she was just so beautiful. I looked at her from across the room and I couldn't stop looking. I could tell she was shy. She spoke English, but not very well. We danced, and at the end of the night I gave her my number. I fell for her instantly. So the couple, they begin to date. They get involved physically very quickly. It's a very passionate relationship. A lot of sex happens between them. She's very fiery. Now, not to stereotype, right? And I'm not stereotyping, but she is the fiery Spanish type, and he's quite a headstrong man. So when they're dating, the relationship, it's full of passion. There's plenty of fire, and there's quite a few arguments along the way. However, 1 year later, they get married. And now she becomes a US citizen, and the families gather to celebrate the wedding of John and Lorena Bobbitt. Is this the marriage made in heaven? Well, in some ways, yes, actually, because for Lorena, she's now a US citizen, which she'd always wanted. And John, well, he's now got this passionate wife who he loves very, very much. John will say that there was a pressure, not even just a slight pressure, but a pressure from Lorena's mother to get married really quickly. She wanted to see her daughter get married. So we probably know where this is heading, right? The incident I mentioned earlier on, right? So yes, we all know why they made the headlines, but let's look at the 3 years of marriage leading up to that event, that terrible evening. John was discharged from the Marines not long after being married to Lorena. He was discharged for angry, unreasonable behaviour and for drinking. So he had to take on lots of various low-paying jobs. I think he was a taxi driver, he was a pizza delivery man. At one point, I think he worked in a baker's or something. He was basically just taking any job that he could. Lorena was caught on shoplifting charges, and she was arrested for this. But she was also arrested for being aggressive towards police when she was caught shoplifting. So now, Lorena has a criminal record. And John and her, they do their best, right? They do their best just to get by. Now, they were a couple who really did enjoy sex. And this is where the story gets very, very bloody. If you listen to John, he will say, Lorena demanded sex continually and would get aggressive if he didn't want it. Lorena will say John was a sex animal. I don't think she actually used the word sex animal. Although I did quite like that. Sex animal. Enjoy it. She says he would threaten her if she didn't want to have sex and that he would force her into it. She would always maintain this. She would say he is so selfish. He would orgasm and he would never wait for me to orgasm. It made me so mad. He was so self-involved. In 1991, now that was just 2 years after they'd been married, police had made quite a few visits to the Bobbitts' house, called on domestic abuse reports. And again, this is where it's tricky. So Lorena would have bruises to show police. Sometimes she would have marks on her face, sometimes marks on her arm, marks on her body, bruises. And police would go, okay, clearly your husband has been hitting you. But John would also have marks on his body where she had attacked him. So, yeah. He would say, yes, she does have bruises on her face, but they're actually self-defense because she went for me in the first place. No one's really believing massively that John is being attacked by Lorena, but she is known to have a very fiery temperature. She's not got a fiery temperature, she's got a fiery temper. That'll be the one. But also, John does drink a lot and is known to be quite aggressive, even if he's just out in a bar. So people are leaning more towards believing what Lorena has to say about it is that actually, yes, John can get quite violent sometimes. So now to the main event. The event that everyone knows about. On the evening of June 23rd, 1993, the couple are living in Virginia. Lorena is at work. Now she's a manicurist. So she comes home from work, and at the time they've got a friend staying over who is sleeping in the living room. Lorena will say that John was out drinking and then when he comes home he demands sex. John will say he was already home when Lorena comes home from work and she was in a terrible mood and she wants to have sex, but John brushes this off. Lorena will say that that night, once more, John raped her and then fell asleep. John will say this is not the case, they had consensual sex. And Lorena complained that she hadn't orgasmed. Whichever of these, right, is the truth, or what's not the truth, or what bit of any of those stories is the combination of the truth, will never be proven. But what happens next is definitely not debatable. It's 2 a.m. and as John sleeps, Lorena goes to the kitchen. She gets a 12-inch kitchen knife. She goes back into the bedroom. She pulls back the covers. John is naked. And as he sleeps, Lorena takes the knife and cuts off his penis. Ow. Oh. Ow. She takes the penis in her hand and she panics, not knowing what to do. Well, this bit I think is odd. She goes to John's wallet and she steals $100 before getting into the car. She drives away with, I might add, with the penis still in her hand. She drives away. And as she's passing a nearby field, she throws the penis into the field. So she drives now to her boss's home and she explains what she's done. Can you imagine that conversation? So you're never going to believe it. What I've done is I've actually just cut my husband's dick off, so that's a bit of a problem. Yeah. You'd be like, I'm sorry, what have you done? Sorry now? So she calls police to report it. She turns herself in. She says, I mean, again, what a phone call. Imagine having to phone police. Hi. Yeah, well, I've done something. Actually, what I've done is I've severed his penis from his body. Yeah, great. And then I've thrown it in a field. So police, they jump into action and a search team begins. Imagine it. Imagine that police officer having to command that team. Okay, everyone, we're going on a search tonight. Everyone's like, right, okay, what we're looking for, is it a missing child? Oh, is it an escaped convict? No, it's a penis. Okay then, great. So the search begins, and meanwhile an ambulance has arrived at the Bobbitt home. John has obviously lost an awful lot of blood from that. He's woken up to find that he has no penis. How terrifying. Do you know what question always hangs in the air for me here is, how did he not wake up? Without getting too graphic or sounding medically stupid, I mean, a penis is pretty firmly attached to the body. So how did she do it with him not waking up? Like, did she do it in one simple cut? Or was it more of a sawing motion? I mean, I know it's horrible to think about, but it's like, did she just like go for like one massive cut it off? I mean, was she singing, the first cut is the deepest, baby, you know, first cut is the deepest, as she did it? I don't know. John says he woke up, he looked down, and he remembers thinking he looked like a horror movie. He starts screaming at the top of his voice. He's screaming and he's screaming and he's screaming. What was he screaming, do you think? Where's my penis? Has anyone seen my penis? I appear to have lost it. So, police, they actually do manage to find the penis in a field. How many times can I say the word fucking penis in 10 seconds? They do find it in a field. I mean, can you imagine? Found it! Oh, great, found it. I was the police officer who found it. Brilliant. John undergoes 9 hours of surgery to reattach it. And the surgery, it works. So, Lorena is arrested for the attack and she is banged up in a prison cell while John recovers in hospital. Now, of course, both of them, they get a lawyer knowing fine well this is going to go to court. John wants her sent to prison for the attack. She wants John punished for his actions during their marriage. So by now, the headlines around the world are just insane. The story of the woman who cut off her husband's dick and then threw it into a field, I mean, it's huge. And at first the portrayal is very much, she's a mad woman. She discovered he was having an affair and this was the punishment. That's how it gets kind of reported. But then, what starts to leak out is the fact that he had been abusive. So now it becomes a bit more of a complicated story. Well, there's only one place, really. I mean, I think when a story is very complicated like that and you've got two sides of it, the only place that you can sort it out is court. Because, of course, we know the court is where, you'll always get the truth. So, who's actually on trial here? Well, I mean, the case is mainly brought against Lorena as the criminal who attacked her husband. But, well, many will say, actually, no, this is John's rape trial. So there is a circus around the story. Interestingly, it can't be televised, this case, because it mentions marital rape. It can't be televised. And it's weird because it happened just after the whole OJ situation and the Menendez brothers situation. And of course, both of those were televised. And I mean, the press would love it if the Bobbitt story could be televised, but it can't. They're just wanting to jump on the fact that OJ and the Menendez brothers, you know, they were the trials of the century. For God's sake. People start making t-shirts in support of Lorena Bobbitt, and they start selling them outside of the court. It's like the t-shirt is basically like a drawing, like a sketch drawing of her holding a knife, and it says, "Free Lorena." Her defence team, they present the following case. Insanity. They say she was so driven by John's abuse that she just had no other option but to cut his dick off. Now, it's tricky when the prosecution present the actual statement that she gave to police, where at first, this is what's quite complicated about it, she doesn't, when police first arrest her, say, oh, it was years of abuse and it was years of rape. What she says is, what I told you earlier on, she says, he would always orgasm first and I never would. So I got so fed up of it, I pulled back the covers and I just cut it off. Now, this undermines her domestic abuse claims massively. Her defence team must have just been like, fuck, she's made it about sex. She's not actually made it about the abuse that happened. And I don't think anybody is doubting that John was abusive and that marital rape had happened. And yes, he should be fucking sent to prison for that, but it doesn't quite play out in court the way that you would want it to, in the way that John should pretty much have just been put in prison for raping his wife. The fact that she brings it back to sex makes it very difficult. There's not very much sympathy for John in court, of course. It's generally believed that, yeah, this is what he was doing, he was raping his wife. The whole trial is a mess, and John gets described in the courtroom. I mean, this is the worst use of this word ever. John gets described as cocky in the courtroom. Cocky? Come on! We're talking about a man who got his dick cut off and you're calling him cocky? Fuck off. So, the other thing that complicates it is the actual evening in question. Neither John nor Lorena can quite get the story straight about what happened. They both tell multiple versions in court. At one point she's saying it was rape, and then the next thing she's saying actually he was asleep and then he tried to force sex on her, and then it changes to, oh no, it was consensual, and then he's saying, well, we never actually had sex that evening. It's a mess. It's just the whole thing is a mess. But here's what it comes down to. Lorena is found not guilty on the grounds of insanity, and she's ordered to spend 45 days in a facility to help her deal with her anger and make sure that she's mentally sound enough to be out in public and not in need of prison. John gets acquitted of rape and the abuse charges. That doesn't go down well with people at all. There's a lot of press and a lot of pressure at this point for the government to do more about marital rape, and Bill Clinton actually signs a bill making marital rape illegal in Virginia. Other states in America, they would follow later. So it's a complete mess, and neither of them is going to prison, but one place that they are going is a divorce lawyer. In 1995, only 6 years after they married, they divorce. The story doesn't really end there. And that's what I like about this story, is it's more than just that actual incident. They both go on some very weird paths. John forms a band called the Severed Parts. Oh, fucking hell. Brilliant, John. Great name. Yeah, brilliant. The Severed Parts. Fuck off. They only ever have one hit. It's not great. John goes on to have a career in porn. So you know that big porn director, Ron Howard? He makes all those big, famous porn movies. He makes movies with John Bobbitt. The most famous one is called Frankenpenis. Oh, so bad. Oh. But apparently there is demand to see John in porn, to see the reattached penis in action. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. Now, obviously, because I am a very serious, very dedicated podcaster, and I only ever want to bring you the best that I can in terms of stories, I did watch a little bit of Frankenpenis. Just so that I could be sure and be accurate in my telling of the story. And yeah, it's really bizarre because John, he's not got your typical porn star look. Not that you would need to have that. I don't think anyone should really think that porn stars are a real embodiment of what people look like. No, they're not. But yeah, it's not great. It's weird. It's very, very weird. It's just lots of people loving this penis, and you just look at it and go, that's been reattached. It's very odd. But John is enjoying the fame from the incident, which of course is just sending people crazy, and I can completely understand it. They're like, he is a rapist. Why is he getting to do porn? Why the fuck is he allowed to have a band? What the fuck's going on? But that's the thing that is so frustrating, because in the eyes of the law, in court, he has been acquitted. So what of Lorena? Well, she moves in with her mum in Virginia, and she's continuing to give interviews and talk about the story. In 1997, a few years after the trial, she is arrested for attacking her mother. Her mother has bruises and cuts across her face from where Lorena has struck her repeatedly. Her mother presses charges and then drops them. It's not much better for John. In 1997, that same year, he's charged with stalking a young woman in Virginia, but the charges, again, are dropped. I mean, this pair, crazy, both of them. I mean, a match made in crazy heaven. And I'm not taking away the fact that what she went through was horrific. Yes, she went through all of that rape. That's horrific, but clearly the both of them, they need some sort of help to deal with all of this. John becomes a regular on the Howard Stern radio show. So, Howard Stern, known as that sort of shock jock, controversial radio, he gets John on to be his co-host for a while. John goes on tour. This is ridiculous. Howard Stern pays for John to have his penis enlarged, to get some surgery to make his penis bigger. Lorena gets offered $1 million by Playboy for a naked spread. And so she's all set up to do it. It's all going to go ahead, and at the last moment, she backs out. She blames it on bad skin. I'm not believing that. I think the truth here, if I'm just playing detective, I think the truth is that the both of them were being so courted by media companies looking to make documentaries that they had to be very careful about what they signed up to do. And I think that's why she backed out of Playboy. By this point, Lorena and John both have agents who are booking them on to TV shows. John's music and porn career begins to slow down hugely. In other words, no one's really that interested anymore. John is involved in a car accident in which he breaks his neck. And when he's in hospital recovering, which he does, he ends up not paralysed, he gets surgery to reduce his penis to a normal size. For fuck's sake, how much penis surgery is this guy gonna get? Insane. Anyway, what of them now? Well, all these years later, they met for the first time. The first time. On the set of Oprah. I mean, of course. I mean, if you're going to meet anywhere the person that you've been through all of this with, you're going to meet in front of Oprah. I don't really get why Oprah's not been in touch with me. I really don't. I feel she's just not really got to what Extraordinary Stories podcast is, because I've said it before, me and Oprah, my God, we would make a good team. So, they're both on Oprah, they sit, they talk through the story, each of them, they stick to their side of it. John says, I wasn't abusive, I didn't rape her, none of this is true. Lorena says, yes he did. John says that even after everything that happened, he still, every year, sends Lorena flowers and a card on Valentine's Day. Okay, fine. John married again, but it was short-lived, and he divorced. Lorena went on to set up Lorena's Red Wagon, a free charity for victims of domestic abuse. Having been the Bobbits, the story that the world knew, that huge news story of the woman who cut her husband's penis off. The story has now died down, and since their meeting on Oprah, John and Lorena have not spoken since. And so ends the story. Alright, okay. I just really wanted to tell that story. I just really wanted to look at that and everything that happened around it, because it's like I keep saying, you know the incident, but I'm interested to know what happened before and after. Okay, well, this is the end of the sex series, so if you want to get in touch, please do. Facebook group, join it. Instagram, Twitter, all of these places you can find me. Yeah, I think that's really it. As always, Thank you if you're getting in touch. Thank you if you're sending me stories, emails, whatever you're sending me. I love it. Keep doing it. Hope you enjoyed this little series of episodes. And until the next episode, okay, goodbye.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.